So for this tutorial today, I'm going to be using this red heart yarn. It's a 4-weight acrylic yarn. You can use any type of 4-weight acrylic yarn. It doesn't even have to be acrylic. The color is called Jockey Red. For the brim and the horns, I'm going to be using Bernat Velvet, and this is black. And then obviously you're going to need some scissors and a yarn needle, and then I'm going to be using a 5mm crochet hook. This is a Clover Amour hook, my favorite brand. So to begin our bucket hat, I'm going to be using a magic circle. I'm going to hold the yarn in my left hand with the end towards my pinky. I'm going to wrap it around my 2 fingers, go under and cross back over the top to make an X. After you've done that, I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to go under the bottom thread, grab the top thread, pull it through. I'm going to grab the top thread again and make a chain. At this point it's secure, so you can take your fingers out and you've got yourself a magic circle. We're going to be doing double crochets, so I'm going to chain 2 to start my row. I'm not counting any of my chains as a stitch, so I'm just going to start with a double crochet in my magic circle. So that's 1. I'm going to do 11 more so that we have 12 double crochets in total. Alright, so after you've done 12 double crochets in your magic circle, you can take the end piece and pull it, and that will tighten our circle up. From here, I'm going to go back into my first double crochet spot. I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to do a slip stitch to connect the round. And that will be the end of round 1. From here, I'm going to chain 2 to start the second round. And in the second round, we're going to be increasing every single stitch. So we're going to put 2 double crochets in every spot, and we'll end up with having 24 double crochets total. So I've done 1 in my first spot. I'm going to go into that same spot again and do 2. Next spot I'll do 2. 1, 2. Next spot I'll do 2 again, and that just repeats all the way around. After you've done that all the way around, you're going to go back into your first double crochet spot and do a slip stitch to connect the round. On our third round, we're going to be increasing every other stitch. So I'm going to chain up 2. In the first one, I'm going to do an increase, so that's 2 double crochets in the same spot. My first one and my second one. In the next stitch, I'm just doing 1 double crochet. And that will be it for there. The next one we're going to increase again. 2 double crochets in the same spot, and then this just repeats around. So I'm going to do 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets together. Once you come back to the beginning of your third round, you're going to go through the first double crochet spot, slip stitch, and chain up 2 for your next round. In the fourth round, we're going to increase every 2 stitches. So I'm going to start at the first stitch, do an increase, so that's 2 double crochets in the same spot. And then in the next 2 stitches, I'm going to do just 1 double crochet regular. It's 1, and that's 2. And then we'll increase again, so in the next stitch I'm going to put 2 double crochets together. In the next 2 spots we're going to just put 1 double crochet, and that is going to repeat all the way around. So just do an increase and then 2 regular, increase, 2 regular. After you're done with that round, we're going to do the same thing. Slip stitch into your first double crochet and then chain 2 to start the next round. In your round 5, we're going to increase every 3 stitches. So I'm going to increase in the first one. That is 2 double crochets in the same spot. In the next 3 spaces, I'm just going to do 1 double crochet like normal. 1, 2, 3. And then on the next stitch, you're going to do an increase. That's 2 double crochets in the same spot. And then in the next 3, it's just regular double crochets, and that is going to repeat all the way around. Alright, so once you get back to the beginning, you're going to do another slip stitch. We're going to chain 2 and we're going to start round 6. In round 6, we're going to be increasing every 9 stitches. So in the first one, I'm going to do an increase. 2 double crochets in the same spot. In the next 9 stitches, they're just going to be regular double crochets. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 regular double crochets, and then we're going to increase again. So in the next spot, I'm going to do 2 double crochets together, and then this is just going to repeat. So I'm going to do 9 regular ones and then increase again. So after you finish that row, we're going to do another slip stitch and chain up 2. So from here, the next 6 rows are just going to be regular rounds of double crochet, no increasing. So I'm just going to do 1 double crochet in every single stitch around. Once you get back around to the beginning, you're just going to do what we have been doing, which is do a slip stitch into the first double crochet, chain up 2, and start your round again. Like I said, I'm going to do this for 6 rounds total, and then I'll just meet you back. Okay, so I just did my 6 rows of straight double crochets. Here is what my hat is looking like so far. The next part, we are going to start the wavy brim, and I'm going to chain up 2 to start my next row. And the first row, we're going to work in the front loops only. So see how on stitches there's a front loop here, there's a back loop here, and we're just going to work through the front loops like that. And to make it roughly, we're going to be doing quite a few increases. So we're going to do an increase every 2 stitches. I'll do an increase in the first one, so that's 2 double crochets in the same spot. In the next 2 stitches, I'll do normal double crochets in the front loop only. After you've done that, we're going to increase again, so that's 2 double crochets in the same spot, front loop only, don't forget that. And then I'm just going to repeat this all the way around, so I'll be doing 2 regular stitches and an increase. After you finish that round, you're going to slip stitch it closed, and then we'll chain up 2 to start our next round. The next round is going to be very similar. It has the same stitch pattern, except for we're just going to be going through the stitches like normal instead of the front loop only. We're still going to do increase every 2 stitches. So I'm going to increase in the first one, and the next 2 will just be regular double crochets, and then increase again, And that is just going to repeat all the way around, working regularly through the stitches. After you finish the round, slip stitch it closed, and then from here, this is enough ruffles for me. If you want it to be more ruffly, you can continue with the increases. I'm just going to continue with regular rows of double crochet. So I'm going to chain up 2, and I'm going to start my double crochets. I'm just doing 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around until I get back to the beginning. And I'm going to be doing this for 2 rows total. Okay, so I just finished those 2 rows of double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch this closed, and you should have 4 rows on the brim. So from where you started in the back loop only, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. I'm going to cut this off. Anytime I cut off my yarn, I always pull it back through the loop so that I can tighten it down. So there is the base of the bucket hat. At this point, I'm going to grab my black velvet yarn, and I'm going to just do a row around the bottom. I'm going to take my black velvet yarn, I'm going to make a slip knot, put it on my hook, tighten it down, and I'm just going to do a simple row of single crochets. I'll just start right here. It doesn't really matter where you start, but I'm going to do single crochets all the way around the bottom. Whenever I come across my red end, I'm just going to crochet over that so that I don't have to weave it in later. So I'm just holding my end right along with my stitches and crocheting it under these single crochets that I'm doing with the black. Once you've gone all the way around with your single crochets in whatever color velvet yarn that you have, or maybe some fuzzy yarn, you're just going to slip stitch that round finished. I'm going to cut off my velvet yarn. And then at this point, I'm just going to weave in these 2 ends. It's pretty simple. I'll just put them on my my yarn needle, and then I'll just bring it down and run it under where I've done all my single crochets. So after you have got the base of the hat done, you're gonna need to make the horns now. And normally I make the horns with the black velvet yarn. I'm still gonna do that, but in order to show you guys on the screen, I'm gonna use this blue yarn because it's easier to see than the black velvet. But just know that I am making the horns in the black velvet. I'm just gonna show you in the blue so that it's easier for you guys to see and follow instructions. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a magic circle again. After you've done your magic circle, we're going to single crochet 6 into the circle. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And these are going to be worked in continuous rounds. So you're not going to have to slip stitch anything together. So the next round is also just going to be 6 single crochets. So I'm going to start here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The next round is going to be 2 single crochets, increase, 2 single crochets, increase. So I'll start with 2 single crochets. That's 1, 2. Now we're going to do an increase, which means 2 single crochets in the same spot. After that's done, we're going to single crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then last but not least, we're going to do another increase. So that is 2 single crochets in the same spot. The next round, we're going to single crochet around 8 stitches. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. After that, the next round is going to be single crochet 3, do an increase, single crochet 3, do an increase. So I'm going to do 3 single crochets. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. We're going to increase, which is 2 in the same spot. I'm going to do that again, so I'm going to crochet 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to increase in the next one. After you have that done, we're going to single crochet around 10 stitches. So I'm going to do that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. After that, the next row is going to be single crochet 4, increase, single crochet 4, increase. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. The next one is going to be an increase, so I'll do 2 in the same spot. I'm just going to repeat that. Do 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll do the increase in the last stitch. The last row is going to be 12 single crochets around, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. After you've done all the 12 of those stitches, we're just going to slip stitch into the next stitch. And then from here, I'm going to cut off my yarn, but I want to have enough yarn left that I can sew it closed. So I'm actually not going to cut this off because I'm going to use this yarn for something else, but just pretend like I cut it here. After that's done, so this is just kind of like a cone shape, but from here I'm actually going to take this inside yarn and I want to make my horns curve upwards a little bit. So I'm going to go back through the tip. So this is the yarn that's left over from where we started our magic circle. And I'm going to weave the yarn back and forth through the stitches, through the rows, like straight down to where we did our slip stitch. Pull it through. And then in order to make our horn curve up, you just pull that tightly. Not so tight, but just pull it a little bit so that it scrunches up this one side. And then whenever you sew it on, your horn will naturally be curved up towards the ceiling. And also whenever you're putting stuffing in the horn, you kind of just shape it to exactly how you want it to look. But that is how we make the horns. I'm going to go make 2 of those in my black velvet yarn, and then we'll come back and sew them to the hat. After you've got your 2 horns finished, I'm going to fill them with polyfill. Normally I have been filling them with yarn scraps, which is totally fine. I just didn't have any polyfill, but I have polyfill now, so that's what I'm going to use. Alright, so after that's done, what I like to do usually is I just put the hat on and hold the horns up while it's on my head, look in the mirror and see where I like them the best, you know, and then just kind of like mark where you want them to be. Once you have found a good place to have them, put both of your strands onto your yarn needle. Put your yarn needle in the hat where the top of the horn is going to be. Just pull that all the way through. And then we're gonna drop the shorter piece because you don't need both of them to sew with. Keep the longer piece on your needle. And basically we're just gonna sew this on. I usually like kind of roll the brim up in the palm of my hand and I hold the horn on where I want it to be, and then I just go back and forth with sewing. After I've sewed all the way around and gotten back to the top, I usually just check all my sides and see if there's any parts where it's not fully connected to see if I need to go around another time or not. This looks okay, so I'm going to flip it back inside. And I'm just going to tie my two pieces of velvet yarn together. And then just to be safe, I re-thread both of the pieces of thread and I just put them up through the horn. And then you can cut them off there. They just have a less likelihood of unraveling that way. Alright, so after you've done your first one, go ahead and grab your second one. Like I said, I usually like to try it on in the mirror, but I always make sure that the row that they're on lines up, like where the top is. And we'll just do the same thing. After you've got your horns sewed on, all we need to do is weave in this last end. and then we'll be finished. Alright, well there's the finished hat. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. Thank you to those of you that asked for this tutorial. It was pretty fun. If you make this and end up posting it on social media, I would love it if you would tag me. All of the links to that are going to be in the description down below, including my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, anything else. I also live stream on Twitch if you guys want to watch those. And I really hope you liked this tutorial, but I'll see you next time. Bye! Oh, subscribe.